Hello, my name is Matt, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to install Anaconda in your Windows and Linux machines so that you can create different Python environments for different projects or simply install dependencies for your Python projects quite easily with the Conda toolset. Before we start, I'd like to ask you to please visit my website. I have many posts related to software engineering in general, so if you like the content of this video, chances are you're probably going to like some of the posts I've got here on my website as well. The link will be on the description. So let's get into it. So the first step is to actually find the Anaconda installation download links. Okay, so what you're going to look for on Google is Miniconda download, I believe it is. And the very first link, conda.io, that's the one you're going to click on. All right. And you may be wondering what Miniconda is and how it differs from the fully fledged Anaconda installation. Well, Miniconda is simply a lighter version of the Anaconda installation in the sense that it doesn't contain as many packages out of the box as Anaconda. So the download file is a lot smaller than Anaconda, and the installation process should be quicker as well. So let's start with the Windows installation. So what you're going to do is you're going to download the 64-bit installation file here. So unless you're on a very old machine that only supports 32-bit, which doesn't really happen nowadays anymore, you're going to go for the 60-bit download. Once you download this file, you can run it, and this little window will appear, the installation window. And all you've got to do is just click on next, I agree, and then choose whether you want to install it just for you or for all the users. Note that if you install for all the users, it will ask you to elevate the admin privileges here on Windows. I'm going to install it just for me. Once you click on next, it's going to pre-select the installation folder. I would recommend leaving that as it is, not changing it. And then you're going to click on next as well. In my case, I've already got Miniconda installed. I've already got Anaconda installed. So when I click on next, it won't let me, as you can see here. And that's because I've obviously already installed it, so the folder isn't empty. But once you click on next and you keep, proceeding, the installation is going to be done, and then you're going to click on sort of exit on the window. All right, and you should have Anaconda installed in your machine. And what that means is that if you go to the Windows search bar and type in Anaconda, you should see the command prompt, the Anaconda command prompt here, or the PowerShell. I would actually recommend running the PowerShell version because that's Windows's new terminal, shall we say, and that has many upgrades over the command line, which is the other command prompt you get, Miniconda. So in here, you can probably run Anaconda and you can see that it will pop up, meaning that everything probably went fine in the installation. You can also create environments with the Conda toolkit, like this. And in this command here, I'm creating a new environment for a project. I'm calling that environment test, and that environment is going to have Python 3.9. Once you click on run, everything should run just fine. Conda is going to look for the dependencies needed for Python 3.9, and it's going to ask you if you want to install it. If you click on yes, if you press yes or Y here, you should just wait for the end of installation. And when it's done, you can activate that by simply typing conda activate and then the name of the environment you just created. Okay, and in here, obviously, you can do conda install and whatever dependencies you need for your project in this environment, such as if you want to install NumPy for a maps project, then it will ask you if you want to install the dependencies that are needed for NumPy as well as NumPy, and etc. You can. I've just exited it because I don't really care about installing it now. But in essence, you should have Conda installed on Windows. Okay. You may be able to also add the Conda to your path, your system environment path, meaning that you should be able, if you want to run it from the normal PowerShell or the command line on Windows. Okay, so for example, I open a PowerShell without Conda, and if I type in Conda, it won't appear. And you can actually make it work here by adding the folder containing the Conda toolkit into your system environment variables. All right, you can Google that. I'm not going to explain it in this video. I don't actually recommend doing that because it can be quite messy. The best way to use Conda is to use the command prompt. But if you Google how to include system environment variables on Windows, what you're going to need to add to your path variables are the following contents here. So this is what you're going to add to environment variables here, your conda, all right, as well as your Python. And let's just note that you don't actually add the whole thing. You only add the folder up to scripts here. You don't include the conda.exe. And you should also add the directory containing your Python into the system environment variables. And for that is a little bit tricky. You have to actually, once you've installed your environment, you activate, and then you do this command here, conda. I'm not sure if you guys can see it very well, but this is the this is what you're going to add, and then it again, you just add the whole path up to the bit behind python.exe. You should be able to use Python and the conda tool from your normal Windows PowerShell, but I don't actually recommend that. I'm just explaining how you do this, all right? So now let's get into Linux. So I'm going to start here my Ubuntu WSL distribution here. This is, basically Linux and Windows. It works in the same way. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to create a temporary directory to store all of the temporary files. I'm going to zoom in here as well so you guys can see. And I call the directory Miniconda temp. All right, so let's cd into that. And we've got an empty directory here. So we created this because we're actually going to download some files into our Linux. So again, going over to the Miniconda page, you're going to select here, you're going to copy the link to Miniconda free Linux 64 bits. All right, copy link address. And on the Linux side, we're going to download this through the terminal, and you can do that using wget and then pasting the link. If you don't have wget, you should probably Google how to install it on your machine. It should come with Ubuntu, I believe. So if you're on Ubuntu, that'll be fine. I'm not sure about the other distributions. Once you wget it, that shell script, the installation shell script, should be here now. And what we're going to do now is make an executable so we can actually run the script. And once we made the script executable, we're simply just going to run it, okay, like this. And we're going to press enter. We're going to read all of the terms and conditions. And then once you've done that, once you've pressed enter enough times, you're going to type in yes to accept it or no to not accept it if you don't want to. Next step, you're going to specify the installation directory. And I would recommend keeping this as it is already. Don't change anything. So just press enter here. If you've got a reason to, you can change it. But if not, I'd recommend not to. And then in here, you're going to type in yes. It's going to initialize conda for you. So I just clean my screen here. But what that initialization actually does is it adds some extra code to your bash RC file so that conda is actually present in your shell environment. So it essentially means that it will add all the directories containing the conda toolkit to your path. And you can see what it did actually by running, by checking your bash RC or your Z shell RC. In my case, I'm on Z shell, so I believe it would have added that to Z shell RC. And if you go to the very end, you added all of these initialization scripts here. And as I said, it essentially is just exporting some extra values to your path variable, so you can run conda from your terminal. Okay, it should work fine with bash and Z shell RC from what I've tested. But if you're using a different shell, for example, K shell or whatever other shell you're using, have a look at the bash RC file if you've got one. It may have added that initialization code block to that file. So just basically copy and paste this section here. Let me just do it for you. Copy and paste that whole section into your equivalent RC file. So for example, I'm on Z shell. I would copy that to my Z shell RC. And once you resource it, you should be able to now do a conda, all right? And then obviously within this, you can do colon create whatever name and my environment, as well as, my Python version. And it'll work just fine, as you can see here. I'm not going to go through all the steps because you can see how it works. But that's essentially it, guys. You've now got conda installed in your Linux machine. That's actually the hardest one to install. From experience, Windows is actually very easy. You just run the installation file. But on Linux, you might have to copy over some of the code from the bash RC file, all right, or the Z shell RC onto your particular shell, which I've had to do before. I think they've just recently fixed it, actually. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you can now develop many Python projects. And yeah, if you've got any questions or any feedback, make sure to comment on the video. Visit the website as well. I'll massively appreciate that. And that's it. Bye-bye.